A warm welcome back to the Information Security Stack together with me, Daniel Gustafsson and Kim Hindart.
Hubba.
Today, Kim, we are going to continue our discussion. In a previous episode, we talked about the foundation and CIA model of information security, meaning what really is information security. And we talked about the CIA model. Today, we're going to continue that discussion, and we are going to bring in the second part of information security, which is people. Believe it or not, we are still in a world where we depend on people and the actions of your staff, your employees, the people that work in your systems, administrators, users, and so on. And depending on where these people are in their group dynamic stages and in their human behaviors, that can greatly affect the information security level of your company. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So where do we begin, Kim? If I say that humans can affect your technical systems, what is your response to that?
Oh, everyone knows that Skynet is real.
For
We
sure.
have a universal AI, so we need no human dependency whatsoever.
Wouldn't that be great? Just have machines and robots to do all the work for us, all the AIs in the world, right? Does it really work?
I hate to burst your bubble out there, but humans still has to build the techie systems.
Mhm.
Sorry to say, but we aren't there that the machines can build themselves.
No. We're moving in that direction with Elon Musk and everything, but we're not there quite yet, right?
Yes. So, and just to be clear, Elon Musk is not John Connor. He won't be your savior. Elon Musk is the creator of Skynet. So Elon Musk is Miles Dyson. And for you kids out there who have no clue of the references we do, we'll put link in the description so you can.
Yes, and then we just refer to Google, and Google is your friend in these cases, and you're going to learn tons of things that has nothing to do with these episodes. All right, so
Yeah.
coming back to the topic of today, what we're actually going to talk about is the humans that are actually running and administrating your systems, using your systems, and the technical platforms that you implement into your companies. Because there is a bit of a myth, isn't it, Kim, that if only we bring in really good technical platforms, our company will be secure.
And security is the weakest chain. That's the weakest chain that define how secure are you. If you have the world's greatest and very, very best super, super duper safe, that's awesome. But if the people that are going to open the safe writes the combination to that safe on a post-it and sticks it to the door,
Mm.
you
Then what?
pretty much circumvent the whole idea with the safe. Or if people do as happened to me, that I bought a really huge perfect safe and people thought it was too hard to open the door now and then, so they stored the information that should supposed to be in the safe on top of the safe.
It's counterproductive, isn't it?
So you can rest assured that people will always find a way to mess up both your tech and your procedures. So it comes down to people. And then this horrible thing, people say it's impossible to change people and it's impossible to change a grown-up's behavior. Is that true?
Well, it depends on where you start. I usually reference to a German psychologist from the 30s. He was named Kurt Lewin. He came up with a really great model called Levin's model of human change, which I always refer to. And that model says behavior equals identity plus situation. Meaning, if I want to change someone's behavior, the thing that we almost always do incorrectly when we try to change a behavior is that we start to target people's identity, meaning who you are, what you like, what you do, the things that are relevant to you, meaning things that you identify with. I greatly advise anyone listening to this to not try and change the identity of a human being. It will take you anywhere between 12 and 15 years. You will probably fail miserably, and you will only make the situation worse. The thing you should focus on is the situation portion, the S in that formula. Behavior equals identity plus situation, because the situation is quite simple to change, and it's much less frightening for the individual, less harming for the person involved, and it's much easier to get the positive result quicker. And of course, then that's very easy to say, but there actually are great tools which you can use. In our company that we work for, and in many other companies around the world, and also within the military industry, det prasslar. In the military industry, there's a model called IMGD, Integrate Model of Group Development. It was founded by a lady called Susan Whelan back in the 80s. It's one of the most, if not the most, researched platforms and methods for group dynamics and group change and situational change for teams and groups that are out there and are available. Now, there are other methods, of course. There are other research platforms that's had within this area as well. So this is not the only one, but it's the one that we use, and it's the one that we feel most comfortable with. So we're going to refer to this model going forward in these episodes. And we're not going to go through every stage in detail today. We're going to do that in a later matter, but we're going to talk about the various stages that a team and the humans within the team can exist in order to reach a great performance level within your teams, in order to secure in your technical systems that you implement into your organization to secure your information security. The different stages of where your teams are will make a difference. So let's start with the first stage, that all teams that you put together new. So let's take this example, for instance, that you put together a brand new team, 6, 7, 8, 9 people into a team, and they're going to start to work together, and they're going to be your security team moving forward with your technical platforms. The first stage, according to the IMGD model, which they will enter just by being in the same room for the first time, trying to work together, is the stage one, also called the dependency and inclusion stage, meaning we don't know each other. We are not really sure about the objectives of the group. We're not quite sure who is the official leader in the group. We are not really secure to be ourselves, and we also might struggle to work together out of the scope that we're not sure yet what everybody knows. We don't know everybody's skills. We have just been put together, and we are now called a group of people. And the first two stages of this model, you are by definition a group. So, Kim, if I have a stage one team, or a stage one group rather, and they start to work with your technical platforms in your operational systems regarding your information security, what are the potential risks with a stage one team?
Unless they have a clear leader, the potential risk is they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a directly appointed and very clear leader that takes charge immediately and say, this is what we need to do, well, then you need that stage needs very clear and well defined instructions for it to work. Otherwise, it will grind to a halt pretty much, and no one wants to enter into conflict with each other, so no one takes charge.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And no one disagrees. And then all of a sudden you can quickly end up in the other stage. And just to be clear, when we're talking about stages here, for future reference, we might just slip up and say a stage two group.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we are referring to. But remember, all these things we are saying, it's the IMGD model that talks about the different stages, numbering them 1 to 4.
Yes.
The same counterpart is true in every group dynamic development. Like we expressed, you always have the initiation of a group with people who don't know each other. I mean, that's true regardless if you call it stage one or if you
Yeah.
call it, that's still true. So even if you go to other models, no model will say you never have the stage where people don't know each other and get
Yeah.
to know each other.
No. First time off, whenever you are new into a room, you can we also reference sometimes to, let's say you go to a cocktail party and you there are tons of people in the room and you know nobody. The chances that you will stand in the middle of the room and shouting out your views on politics or sexual behaviors and so on is pretty slim. You won't, well, there are those people as well, but they are very few. The most of us, we would just enter a room silently and we will try to conform and be nice to everyone because we don't want to upset anyone and we do not want to stand out in a crowd. So in the first stage, where the stage one, which is called dependency and inclusion, that's exactly what you want to try to achieve as a member of those teams. You just want to belong, you want to be included, you want to feel important, you want to be a nice person in the team. The great thing with a stage one team, or a group rather, in terms of information security is that they are extremely conformative. So as a leader of these types of teams, it's very easy to give an instruction and an order and say, now let's focus on this specific task and let's do that. And they will work great on that task until that's finished. But when they're done, they're going to stop working and then wait for the next instruction. So they're not independent as a team yet. They are a group of people waiting for instructions. But it actually is quite productive from an information security perspective as well, that they will always conform to the instruction given to them, as long as they make sense and they are proper instructions with a proper meaning.
And for organizations like the military used to be, remember, this is IMGG is adopted by the militaries all over right now
Yes.
on an extensive scale. But in the early stages, what we are familiar to see, if you have seen movies like Full Metal Jacket, and I perfectly agree that I'm ancient referencing to movies. My niece just said Full Metal Jacket. That's something like Chaplin, isn't that? And I said, yeah, come little girl, and I will smack you around a bit. But anyway, stage one is working when you have this strict chain of command, when you have the sergeant saying forward, when you have the lieutenant saying attack, when you have the stereotype of a military, when you have the drill sergeants left, right, and everyone stumbles
Yes, exactly.
because you didn't say left and then everyone falls over. So that's a stage one group. And if you have good instructions, then it's very secure. Then it works well. But it dependent on you have great leaders, you have a great formal structure, and you have great instructions. Then it works. I used to think of an industry called the airline industries. They are in a stage one.
Very, yeah, for sure. It depends on, if you talk about commercial airlines, then they have, as a most of them. I'm not going to say everyone because there might be differences, but the most of the commercial airlines has a strategy to keep all of their flight crews as stage one teams. So if you think about it, they rotate staff on a daily to 2 days basis, meaning the teams that work, the captains and the co-pilots and the cabin crew are being rotated in new teams almost on a daily basis, and that is so they can keep everyone in a stage one phase, meaning the hierarchy is set. The captain is the captain, the crew chief on board is the crew chief on board, and all the other roles are clearly defined, so they will not get into a conflict. Let's say a fire breaks out on the airplane. As a passenger, I do not want one of the flight attendants to start showing the crew chief off, or sit down and just don't want to do anything because she doesn't like that specific person. That's not very helpful in a stressful situation, like, say, for instance, a fire. So the hierarchies are set, and that's the reason why they rotate staff on a daily basis, so everyone keeps aligned to the roles and the hierarchy that is set within the cabin crew. So it could be a clear benefit to keep your teams as a stage one team, just out of the pure perspective of clear chain of command and clear instructions. However, those types of teams are also very leader dependent. So if the leader isn't around, there is a great chance that that specific group or team just will not work together or don't know what to do unless the leadership is present. So that's the drawback of a stage one team. However, whenever they start to communicate with each other, and let's say that they work together for a longer period of time, let's say a couple of weeks or months or even years, but it only takes a couple of weeks before I start to feel comfortable within the team, and I start to express my own feelings and what my own beliefs and what I want and what I like and what I don't like, what I want, what I don't want, and so on. If I so let's say that I start to ask for a specific way that we as a team should work. Let's say that I think that every day we should come into our to the office and start work 8 in the morning sharp, not 8:05, not 8:15, not we're gonna be at work. We're gonna start working at 8 o'clock in the morning every morning. That's when the team starts. And let's say that you, Kim, do not like that. You want us to start at 8:30 because it suits your schedule better. And let's say that we have two different opinions about this specific matter and this specific topic. And it might seem like a minute topic and an unimportant topic, but that's the whole reason why I bring it up, because small things that I do say, that you do or say, will eventually start to piss someone off in the team. And if we don't agree to when we start in the morning, I come in at 8 and you come in at 8:30, I start to get upset by the fact that you are always late in the morning, and to you in your mind, I'm just stupid because I'm always early. Here we enter the most interesting phase of a group dynamic, I believe, which is called a stage two. It's counter dependency and fight, a or even a conflict stage, we can call it. If I have a team of technicians, Kim, that work with your firewalls and your security solutions, and they are in a stage two, a conflict stage where they do not get along, now what are the risks with this team?
Now we have a huge problem because it's in these stages you get the things prone to human errors, and you don't get corrections of the mistakes. You get a blame game, you get a pointing fingers game,
Hmm.
which means that it has a tendency to be more prone to make more mistakes because people don't care to help each other. If you are in the phase where you have one making a mistake and the other one don't like them, then you just look at that and say that's their problem.
Hmm.
You have this thing where you might have one who have 19 tasks to do, and I have 0 tasks to do, but I don't help the one with 19 tasks. I rather look at my task list and say, oh, I have a really nice day, sorry for him who has lots to do.
Hmm.
If you have 19 tasks you have to complete that day, the risk that you are going to make mistakes increase a lot then. Mm.
Incredibly.
so so this is the stage where you have this, and especially if you don't like each other, you won't admit that you make mistakes, you won't help people that do make mistakes, and you foster a culture where people rather pointing fingers as ha ha instead of encouraging an open discussion on how do we best resolve this. It's a very individual focused, I focused sense, and not a we focused sense, and that's a issue.
It is. When we are in a conflict stage, we start to blame, complain, and defend. The BCD model, which is also called and a very well known behavioral coach called Brian Kite has this model which I really like. He called the BCD model, which is the blame, complain, and defend stage. Meaning, I will blame others for mistakes. I will complain about pretty much everything, and I will defend myself at all times. It will never be me. It's always someone else. I'm not at fault. It's always the system or the solutions or the technical platforms or my manager or my colleagues or whatever reason I can come up with. I will start to blame, complain, and defend my own behavior. This is a typical stage two group. We haven't reached a team stage yet. It's a group of people that are now going through a conflict stage. Now, some teams are really quick to handle the conflict stage, meaning they are really good at acknowledging the fact that they have a conflict. They talk about it, they go through it, and they solve their issues, and they can move along. Other teams, and that is according to the research and the statistics, almost 80% of all teams in the world, and has nothing to do with gender or race or religious beliefs or where
Culture.
cultural or wherever you are in the world. This is just measured on teams around the world. 80% of all teams, roughly, get stuck in the stage 2 phase. And that is a tough place to be because it is really, really hard to wake up in the morning and know that you are angry at someone, or you know that someone is angry at you, or you don't feel comfortable and you don't know if you are allowed to speak your opinion, or you wake up in a miserable state every morning. I know if you listen to this, you can probably have look back at your work life and feel that every now and then you have gone through this stage. It doesn't have to be in your work either. It could be in your sports team outside of other work. It could actually be in your family as well, because a family is a team as well. Remember, so all of these things that we talk about are relevant in all situations, no matter what team we're talking about. But since we're focusing on information security here, so if that is a state that I go to work in, to your point, the chance that I will help you if something goes wrong for you is slim to none. The chances that I will care about you is slim to none. And if we are in that stage, I don't care if you make a mistake and, oh, oops, we forgot to close a port in the firewall, or oops, we forgot to patch the server, or oops, we forgot to do some other important task that led to a security breach. And if that happens, all I'm going to do is blame, complain, and defend that it wasn't my fault. That is an extremely unhealthy place to be in terms of your information security. So you want to get through this stage quickly and work with your teams and work with your groups to make sure that they are getting their issues solved. And this takes leadership, and we're going to talk about this in detail when we come to that specific topic in our upcoming sessions and episodes of this podcast. But from an information security perspective, to your point, this is the worst place to be, because this is where all the mistakes will happen and no one cares, and that's a dreadful place to be. However, if we do solve our issues and we start to patch up our problems, and we start to actually care about each other, we will then start to enter the third stage of the IMGD model, which is called trust and structure. This is the first stage of the team development. We have now left the group stages and we will now enter a team stage, because as a team, we will start to care about each other. We will start to listen to each other. We will start to have goals and agendas that are agreed upon within the team. We have the same goals, the same agenda, and we have a clear structure on how we work. We start to formulate a leadership which is not a person, it's a team that starts to manage the team, dependent on which skill I have, dependent on what I actually have experience in. Maybe I'm more suitable as a leader in one specific topic, and you are a more suited leader in another specific topic, and we are more than willing to share the leadership within the team. That's where the trust and the structure start to formalize. Reaching this stage, Kim, is hard, but also within the world of information security, we know that there are people out there who do not see it as a good thing to try to push your team to a stage 3 or even a stage 4 team, which is a high performance team where just everything flows within the team without defined leadership. What is the norm within the field of information security regarding this push to get to a stage 3?
Yeah, there's a lot of actually discussions. I know when I talk to my counterparts that are CEOs of the other stages, they like to keep it as strict policy based and remove people at all, and say we only do like the airline industry do. We change around the teams.
Hmm.
Mm. This will be a tricky part if you're any type of enterprise with a bit more people. You can't change around them too often. But yeah, anyway, that's because they don't want the conflict phase. And this is everyone is now listening and asking themselves, but surely, Daniel, we can just skip the conflict phase and go directly to stage three.
Wouldn't that just be lovely? And there are people, and especially leaders, that have teams in their in the stage two that clearly says that nope, we can just skip through it because we are done with it. Unfortunately, no is the short answer. Every team, as I said before, will go through all of these stages eventually. And if you get stuck in a conflict stage, well, you need to get through that. But even if you are really good at getting all your minor conflicts and setting all your priorities and all of that, you can go through it quickly if you're good at it. If you don't talk about it, if you don't work with it, you will get stuck. But unfortunately, you cannot skip that phase. Unfortunately, you just won't. It will either go fast or it will take a long time, depending on how strong the leadership is and the will to actually start to lift the issues within the team and try to sort them out if there are any. And to my point, that it doesn't have to be as bad as we're fighting each other or don't like each other. It could be minute little things that piss me off, and they are enough to not care about my colleagues, and that's what we need to sort out. So even small problems are worth talking about.
But if I write a policy that say we should care about each other, that
Yeah,
should surely be enough.
that's a
People can read it.
yes, absolutely, and that's a great start. And you should have that in your policy, that you should care about your colleagues and you should care about other people in your workplace. That should be absolutely part of your policy. But the policy is only as strong as the paper that it is written on until you actually start to live according to the policy. And here's where behavioral change comes in. So the whole idea of a policy is there to help you change the situation, as I mentioned before. The behavior equals identity plus situation. The policy is not there to change the individuals. It's there to help assist change the situation of the individuals working in your company. So the policy is a great help. It's a statement from the company where we state that this is how we want people to work within this company. Awesome. That is only gonna help if I actually implement it into my life. I implement it into my team. I take those policies to heart. I implement them into team rules, which I then hold myself and my colleagues accountable against. Then your policies will be a tremendous success. If we don't do that part, we only scream about our policy and say, "Here's the paper, read this, and everything is fixed." I'm so sorry, but that will not help. So, no, if you want to implement a great policy, the first thing that you need to do after you have written your policy on the paper is to start working with your teams and get them to implement the policies or the statements of the policies into their daily behavior. Then the policy will be an awesome tool.
So you're saying we're screwed. We cannot get through this, magically skip through the stage two team.
No, and this we have and we'll talk about this in other episodes as well. You have to work at it. I'm so sorry. Everything requires work, and it requires hard work, and it requires repetition, and it requires training. And most importantly, it doesn't matter if I practice one time and train at something one time. It needs to be repeated on a daily basis until we actually implement it as a behavior into our daily life. Whenever the things that I have to do becomes the things I want to do is the day that you have successfully implemented a policy into an organization. And that requires work. So if you spend tons of dollars on great PR material, you bring in behavioral coaches and all of these great people that are out there, the benefit of that investment will only be for the time that they are around, or for the how long that it took to print the paper which you send out your message. The message will not have any value unless the people who works in your company starts to implement them as a behavior rule into their daily life. And that requires work, and that requires leadership. And here's, to my, at least in my opinion, here's where we fail to a large extent, because we build so much trust in our technical platforms and our technical systems, and we forget about the people who actually have to work with them. So we have some work to do here, folks. And this is an implement. This is the first step of our agenda to try to share our opinions, our views. We want to hear your opinions and your views regarding these subjects as well and topics. And we will continue to talk about these group stages, the IMGD model in detail in upcoming episodes. We will continue to talk about the relationship between policies, laws, technical solutions, and the people who work with them in upcoming episodes as well. And we hope that you will join us and share your opinions. And if you like to, and if you want to, you can do that at citynetwork.se/podcast. And you can send in your questions. Or if you want to, you can also be partake in these episodes and these podcasts if you want to share your opinion with us and get going in with the discussion. And we encourage you to do so. Have we missed anything, Kim, for today?
Yeah, we will go through and talk more about the different stages. We have left a cliffhanger because we haven't come to the final stages yet.
Well, I briefly mentioned that there is something called high performance team, but once again, that's where everything is all fine and dandy. And the first three stages are really the big keys here. So those are the ones I wanted to cover for today.
Yeah, but keep in touch, and we will sure to talk more about this topic.
We absolutely will. For now, anyways, Kim, we'll call it a day, and we'll talk soon again.
Yes, hubba.